If is dead, you won't be hearing from me again.
Oh my god, I've been talking for 24 minutes now, but it doesn't matter because she beat his ass.
He kind of reminds me of Gojo.
There's a certain autumnal crisp in the air, and the sudden urge to light a candle is coming in hot, which can only mean one thing. It's time for some fantasy. On my mission to hone in on my reading preferences as an adult, I'm determined to start reading all of these books that I set aside because I know that I'm gonna like them, but I think that it will take even an ounce of brain power to read them. And so I want to read them at the exact right time to give them enough attention and energy to really appreciate them. But the reality of the matter is that my brain is the same level of smooth at all times. So really I should just be picking up and reading these books that I know I'm going to enjoy. And as I'm sure you can tell from the title of the video, it's finally time to tackle The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm so excited. Yay! I'm still really only at the beginning. I'm on chapter 5 now, but I wanted to give an update because so much has happened and we know so much more about the setup and like who our main character Rin is, and oh my god, there's a lot to talk about. And I feel like I didn't make this clear in the intro now that I have sat down to actually give you an update, but this will have spoilers. I want to do like a little read along with you, so just spoiler warning, everything will be spoiled. So far, we've met our main character, Rin, who is a 14-year-old girl. Little Rin is a war orphan, and she was sent to live with a foster family who had less than 3 kids. And that did not work out super well for Rin because she has kind of an awful foster family. Her little brother's sweet, but her parents are super deeply involved in this opium drug underground dealing business. And so they forced Rin to be a part of that too. She has nothing, and the family that she does have is so awful to her. It's really sad. And when they come to her at 14 years old and say, you need to go marry this old man so that it can help us with our drug dealing business, she says, that's my last straw. That's it. I'm getting out of here. But the only way to get out of her situation is to make it into the #1 academy, because it's the only academy you don't have to pay tuition for. And the only way to get into that academy is to get like a perfect score on the standardized test that this nation has. I think it's called the Keju. And people study for this test for their entire lives. So there's no way for her to pass the test and get into the top academy. Unless, needless to say, she passes the test with flying colors. She does like the best in her providence, I think it said. And so she makes it into Sign Guard, the super special #1 academy in the nation. It is a military academy. This, again, is just chapter 1, and it's already set up this insane dynamic that you just see us getting deeper and deeper into in only the opening chapters by showing us how Rin has suffered as a member of this society, and then sending her to like the most nationalist place you can go, a military academy where you're learning to give your life for your nation. Oh my god. Oh my. The dichotomy. It's so good. It's making me wonder if Rin is gonna have her own morally gray kind of growth and character arc, because she wants to do the best that she can so that she can stay here and like be enough for somebody. But to be enough for the military, for a nation that is like not really doing great things, it's like, wow, it's gonna be so good. But I'm so excited to read more, and I'm going onto a boat again tomorrow, which always means more reading time. And it's like, I just already know that this is all I'm gonna be thinking about for like forever now. So I realized that my last update was literally not helpful at all, and I think that this section of the book where we're really getting the foundation of what's to come is really important. So I want to actually update you on what's happened so far. Little war orphan Rin, against all odds, gets into the top military academy in the nation and jets out of her small southern province to move to the big city where everybody hates her because she has an accent and darker skin than them and doesn't come from money, which is nice. So they hate her, we hate them. That's how that works. She has made this one nerdy friend, Katai, who is so sweet, and he comes from the rich, wealthy side of society as well, but he was always an outcast, so they get along very well. I love him so far. They start going to their classes at this academy. I also think I said Rin is 14, and she was when she started studying, but Rin is now 16. She's starting classes at this academy, and we learned that the political and military history of this nation that Rin lives in, Nakan, is kind of riddled with war and conflict. It's been divided into 12 different provinces, and they are always at each other's throats trying to get more power, and then they're also always at war with these external nations as well. Specifically, they've been at war with this one nation, the Federation of Mugen. The Federation of Mugen. They've had 2 wars with them called the Poppy Wars. Da, da, da. And in the second Poppy War, which kind of just happened, Nakan was occupied by the Federation, and Nakan wanted their independence, so they went to war with them again in the second Poppy War, and they almost lost. Because they won, the national messaging is kind of like, we're so strong, we won, we kicked ass. But the reality is that they wouldn't have won that war unless they had strategically given up this one island called Spear and also had help from another Western nation who stepped in. I think Spear Island is going to be important because we just learned a lot about its part in the war and how Nakan, this nation, was willing to give up that island completely in order to win because they see the people of Spear Island really differently because the island was like forcefully colonized, so the people of Spear are really ethnically different than the people of Nakan, and they're physically different as well, so there's like a lot of racism going on there. There's kind of a lot of racism so far in the book against people within the nation and I was gonna say without the nation, and outside of the nation. But there's a twist here, because even though all of the people of Spear Island were killed, there's one dude left, and he's also a student at the Academy of Sign Guard. His name is Alton, and he is student numero uno. He is the best, the strongest, the smartest, the fastest, and there is not a single other student in the academy that can beat him in a fight. We also just learned that there are these legends about the people of Spear Island having powers and abilities that they technically shouldn't as humans. A little bit of hints of magic. But the teachers shut that conversation down. They said, don't even joke about it. Magic doesn't exist, you idiots, which this is a fantasy book, so. Speaking of teachers, there's a combat teacher that is a thorn in Rin's side. He's honestly an adult bully. He's literally a bully. He's the worst. And she has enough peers bullying her not to need to worry about an adult too. But basically, Rin got into a fight with her #1 class bully, Naja, who's been up her freaking behind, bro. And even though it was literally not Rin's fault, the teacher kicked Naja out for a week and banned Rin permanently from coming to combat class, which is so nice. Then I think the last important character that we've kind of met so far is this mysterious teacher who is supposed to be teaching this lore class that nobody really knows what that entails because he never shows up and doesn't teach them any classes, and Rin is pretty convinced that he's just constantly high on psychedelic drugs. Which is probably true given his vibe. So to recap the recap, there is this feeling that another war is inevitable and that all of these children are gonna be the nation's fighting force, which is just dandy. And also that Rin is maybe gonna do some magic and some drugs. And she has one friend, Katai, who's so sweet, but literally everyone else hates her. So let's continue.
I think little Rin might have magic. So, false alarm. She just got her period. Just as traumatic as having magic, okay?
Now that Rin has experienced a little bit of failure, it's like kind of driving her into this need to succeed, since being at this academy is like her only option. And it's way darker than I expected. And you just start to watch Rin like descend into this obsessive hole in order to be the best. She began to burn herself again. She found release in the pain. It was comforting, familiar. It was a trade-off she was well used to. Success required sacrifice. Sacrifice meant pain. Pain meant success.
That's fucked up.
Okay, we've gotten a few more details and hints about what's to come, I feel. Because in Rin's descent into chaotic geniusness, she ended up becoming the strategy teacher's like #1 student, and it's her favorite subject, and it's kind of horrifying because she is like very, I can't think of the word, like heartless almost in her strategy. She's like, oh, well, if there's no good option, then they should all just die. That's kind of her strategy method. Everybody can die. And at the same time, she's trying to train herself in martial arts because she's been kicked out of combat class. And one day when she's training, the mysterious lore master, Jiyoung, catches her in his classroom because nobody ever goes because he never shows up to teach class. You know. And all of a sudden, Rin has herself a new teacher. Jiyoung's ready to teach us some combat. And this is maybe one of the nerdiest things I've said so far on this channel, but he kind of reminds me of Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen, and I really haven't watched a lot of that show, but it's like he's this goofy idiot that's always doing stupid things and like literally like skipping around town. And what is Rin describes him as the whimsical lore master. Like he's so full of whimsy and goofiness, and it so doesn't fit in with the rest of the military academy being like so strict and harsh and straight lined. We also found out that Alton, the like best of the best student, almost pledged himself to be Jiyoung's lore apprentice, because at the end of your first year at the academy, every student kind of pledges themselves to one of the teachers in like a sorority style where you get a bid and you can accept it. You know how it goes. And Alton desperately wanted to be a lore apprentice, and Jiyoung turned him down last minute. It's really fun how we're learning a little bit more about Alton at like these little intervals, and he's never in the picture. He has not said a word in this book, but I feel like Rin is thinking about him all the time, and like all of the characters are thinking about him so much. Like you just know he's gonna be important, and it's like, who is this guy? Who is he? But anyway, Jiyoung starts training Rin, and he gives her like a classic training arc. It's so fun. He brings her to this random lady in the city, and he's like, bring out the animal. And she brings out this little pig, and he makes this grand announcement to Rin that now this pig needs to drink special mountain water, and so Rin has to carry the pig to the top of this mountain and back every day before class starts. And it's just so obvious in that moment that he like thinks he's hilarious for making her do this. Like he knows it's ridiculous and this pig does not need special water, but he's like, hell yeah, I'm gonna give her this dramatic training arc. It's gonna be so sick. And she does have a sick training arc. She makes it through, I think it's like 4 months of training, and at the end she's tough as nails, and she's learned the real fundamental old ways of the monks from Jiyoung instead of the fake condensed version that June is teaching all his stupid combat students at the academy. Lame. She's so sick. The fighting so far is actually really cool though. Like, to prove that carrying this pig up the mountain and doing all the training that they've been doing has actually helped make Rin stronger, Jiyoung like punches her out of nowhere, and when she blocks it, it says, the force of his punch was enormous, harder than he'd ever hit her. She knew she should have deflected the blow at an angle, sent the ki dispersing into the air where it would dispel harmlessly. But she was too startled to do anything but block it head on. She barely remembered to crouch so that the ki behind his punch channeled harmlessly through her body and into the ground. A crack like a thunderbolt echoed beneath her. Rin jumped back, stunned. The stone under her feet had splintered under the force of the dispelled energy. One long crack ran between her feet to the edge of the stone block. They both stared down at it. Like, she's kind of badass, and the force of the attacks that all of these characters are doing is crazy. Like, they're cracking not only wood, but stone, ground. It's insane. It's really cool. And Jiyoung and Rin, even in this short time that they've been training together, do have this kind of like sweet relationship because nobody's been kind to Rin so far. And even just seeing her deflect this punch really well makes Jiyoung celebrate massively. Jiyoung threw his head back and laughed. It was a high, wild laugh. He laughed like his lungs were bellows. He laughed like he was nothing human. He spread his arms out and windmilled them in the air and danced with giddy abandon. "You darling child," he said, spinning toward her. "You brilliant child." Rin's face split into a grin. Fuck it, she thought, and leaped up to embrace him. He picked her up and swung her through the air, around and around among the kaleidoscopical, colorful mushrooms. I love them! This is also the second time that Rin has had a moment with Jiyoung where she describes him as being like inhuman, and I'm starting to think maybe there's something to that. Because and then Jiyoung is like, oh my god, you have to pledge lore. You have to be my apprentice. And Rin has been doing all of this so that she can be a strategy apprentice. So she tries to let Jiyoung down pretty easy, but he's like devastated that she doesn't want to be his apprentice. And we also learn a little bit more about what lore entails. When he's trying to sway her away from going strategy into picking lore, he says, "Who are the gods? Where do they reside? Why do they do what they do? These are the fundamental questions of lore. I can teach you more than key manipulation. I can show you the pathway to the gods. I can make you a shaman," which is like a magical being. Gods and shamans. That's kind of the vibe of lore. But yeah, I am only 25% of the way through the book, and so much has happened, and there's still so much to go. And I'm so conflicted about every character, and I just want the best for Rin, but she's a little bit crazy. She's a little bit unhinged, and I'm worried about her. We'll see. Someone has a little crush. From a distance, he was extraordinarily beautiful. Up close, he was hypnotizing. She just crushed Naja's ass. Let's go. Yeah, she did that. Yeah, she beat his ass at the tournament, and yeah, she's going a little bit wild now. Yeah, she's got a little bit of magic something going on now, but it doesn't matter because she beat his ass. It's happening. I don't know why this is making me cry, but fucking Jiyoung is the gatekeeper. I hate war. Is that a hot take? I hate war. Oh my god. Literally nothing happened. Literally nothing. I'm here to give an update because this book is like a completely different book now. And I'm only at 48%. I'm not even 50% of my book. Okay, after beating Naja in the school tournament, Rin goes to stay with Katai at his like rich dad's house because his dad is one of the 12 major warlords in Nakhon. While she's there, we learn about this legend of the trifecta that's basically these three like mega super warriors that played a huge part in winning the Poppy Wars for Nakhon against the Federation of Mugen. We know that's not really why Nakhon won. They won because they gave up Spear Island and allowed it to be massacred. And then also got help from the western nation Hesperia, I think. But regardless, the trifecta are very important. There's the Dragon Warrior, the Vipress, and the Gatekeeper. Oh my god. As of right now, which is like 20 years after the end of the Second Poppy War, the Dragon Warrior's dead, the Vipress is the current Empress of Nakhon, and the Gatekeeper has gone missing. There's a little bit of mystery there, so you know it's gonna be important. Also during this break, Katai makes a little remark about Rin being obsessed with her bully, Naja, who she just beat in the tournament. I can't even describe to you how unromantic their relationship is, but this little seed is planted in our minds of like, you're so obsessed with him, Rin, and it does come back to bite us. Okay. She also ends up seeing the Empress slash Vipress in person and has this like gay panic moment where she's like, this Empress is the most beautiful woman that I've ever seen, and I am now the most nationalist person possible, and the military's my life and I would die for her. And so you're left wondering if Rin is literally just closeted or if there's like some sort of magic happening, because there are literal paragraphs about the beauty of this Empress. Then we head back to school. And for the next 2 years, Rin studies as Jiyoung's lore apprentice, and she goes on this like spiritual, religious training arc where she's learning about how people worship gods and what gods actually are. And once she makes the realization that Jiyoung's trying to teach her that like there's an inner god and there are the gods and they are the same, and the way to connect those two things is by taking psychedelics, Rin is like, oh my god, I see the universe for what it really is. It's very much the Matrix. Or what's that Pluto's allegory, the cave one? You know what I'm talking about. This reality is a construction, this is a dream, and what is real is beyond our scope of ability to see. And once Rin knows that, she's like, okay, give me the drugs. Why is not everybody a shaman? Why isn't everybody convening with the gods in this way? And we get a bit of a banger from Jiyoung here. In recent history, only the nomadic clans of the hinterlands and the tribes of Spear had anyone who could commune with the gods. This is no coincidence. The national quest to modernize and mobilize entails a faith in one's ability to control world order. And when that happens, you lose your connection with the gods. When man begins to think that he is responsible for writing the script of the world, he forgets the forces that dream up our reality. Full body chills. Full body chills. During her 2 years of spiritual training, Jiyoung does not allow Rin to take any sort of psychedelics because he knows that it could literally break her mind to convene with the gods. So he just makes her meditate literally for like 2 years straight. And in the meantime, she's pretty divided from the rest of the students, and she wants to partake in this like underground fight club that the students have always had, that now Naja, her bully, is kind of like the king of punching things really hard down there. So she wants to go show him up because she's already beat him once, but she's not allowed to. Jiyoung says, girl, go meditate, okay? Once Rin has kind of mastered her meditation abilities, it's time for her to try her first psychedelic. It's actually kind of unclear whether or not she does take anything, but she goes up into the mountains and she has her first convening with the gods experience, and it's crazy. She makes it to the like ethereal space that's outside of the human plane of existence to where the gods are, and now knows that she is capable of calling upon the god's power if she needs to, or basically if Master Jiyoung allows her to. And now knowing that she has this ability, Rin is like, okay, sick, let's use it for military purposes. I want to call on the power of the Phoenix, who's like the fire god and one of the most destructive gods, and use his power to win the war that's obviously going to happen between Nakhon and the Federation of Mugen. Like, there's war coming. I can use this ability to help us. And Jiyoung is like, okay, you haven't been listening then, because the entire point of like enlightenment is to use these abilities for good, like to heal, to bring knowledge and enlightenment to the rest of the world, to learn, to examine the reality that only a few people are able to access, not to murder. And it's not only murder, he kind of insinuates that there is more to it than just calling down some power and getting it. It's more like everything has a price, this will be destructive, you could end the world if you do this type of stakes. They're higher stakes than just like defeating the military in a little battle. Then we enter into part 2 of the novel, and it starts off with a twist. The way that it's written is kind of a series of really short blurbs that basically reveal some major information to us as readers. It starts with the perspective of this guy named Tyr, who is the commander of the Psyche, and the Psyche are the Empress slash Vipress's band of secret assassins, and they are also shamans that can convene with the gods. I actually don't know if they're all shamans and they all do, but Tyr can, and it's like known within the psyche, it seems like. Tyr is on a mission for the Empress. He's hiding on an enemy boat. And then all of a sudden, the Empress gets onto the boat and calls Tyr out of his hiding spot in front of everybody, where he was like, I was hiding as an assassin. Like, what are you doing calling me out in front of everybody? This is so weird. The Empress looks into his eyes and basically uses her Vipress convening with the gods powers to break his mind, send him overboard, and drown him. Seems a little bit random, but what this shows to us is that the Empress is like evil in a new kind of way. Like, there's something about the god that she's calling down for her power that's maybe taking over her, using her as a vessel to do what she wants with the world. It's still a little bit unclear, but there's like a new evil, and it's the Empress of Rin's nation, of Nakan. So that's a little bit of a twist, and now it's like, okay, what's gonna happen there? Then we find out that Alton, the old king of the stomping grounds back at the military academy, was Tyr's new apprentice. He graduated, he joined the psyche, and he was set to take over when Tyr died. Tyr just died because the Empress killed him. Alton gets to take over even though he's only been out of the academy for like a day. And he's psyched about it, which is kind of concerning. Then immediately we go on a little bit of a spiritual journey because the death of Tyr kind of radiates throughout the ephemeral god-like space. And we find out that the gatekeeper that's been missing since the end of the Second Poppy War feels the loss of Tyr, who was also a shaman. And we realize in this moment that Master Jiang, who's been training Rin this entire time and just a master at the Signgard Academy, is the missing gatekeeper. He's one of the trifecta. He's a legend, which is crazy because he was like a war legend and he's like anti-war. Like, Rin, you shouldn't be using these powers for war. I don't use them. Like, we need to stop this. So wow. You know what I mean? Like, wow. Then we go back to Rin, who, even though she is not really a master at convening with the gods yet, she also feels the death of the shaman from the psyche Tyr. And at the same time, the Phoenix god, the dangerous one, has apparently been calling down to her. Like, let me take you over. Call me down to the earth. I wanna be in you. Like, as a vessel, like as a godly vessel, like, let me take you, basically. Oh my god, I'm making it worse. Whatever. But she can't, because Jiang won't let her. But she's like, that's not gonna stop me for long. I gotta get in touch with this phoenix. Rin. Okay, war officially starts. The Federation of Mugen and Nakan are officially at war again. And so Rin is running to Master Jiang and she's like, dude, please let me convene with the Phoenix. I can use it for us. And he gives her another speech about how that's the worst idea literally ever. Like, that's just, it's gonna be just destruction. It won't help us. It will only hurt everyone. And you're too young to understand. That pisses Rin off. So she runs to his garden and she steals some poppy seeds and says, you know what, when I'm ready to take this psychedelic and convene with the gods, I'm going to, okay? And then we find out the Federation army has not only invaded Nakan, but they're headed directly for the city of Signgard, where the military academy is. So they need to all of a sudden scramble to get all of the civilians out of Signgard city and then turn the military academy into a base. So we've got all these soldiers coming in, everybody's prepping for war because it's not just happening theoretically now, like, war is upon them. The army start marching up the hill to Signgard Academy, and we get one of the best battle scenes ever. The Federation army attacks the military academy. It's total chaos. The Nakan army and students are so outnumbered, they know that they're going to lose. And so Rin just keeps thinking to herself, the only way to win this is to take the poppy seeds that I stole and call down the Phoenix god. She goes to do it, but before she can, she gets called to a different one of the gates. And the East Gate has been absolutely destroyed. Like, there are no more of their soldiers left to fight against the Federation. And so little Miss Rin teams up with Naja, her bully. And what do we have here? They're kind of an incredible team together because they've spent so much time hating each other that they know everything about how the other person operate. They made a startlingly good team. Rin covered for Nudge's outstretched attacks, Nudge guarded Rin's lower corners. They were each intimately familiar with the other's weaknesses. Rin knew Nudge was slow to bring his guard back up after missed blows. Nudge parried from above while Rin ducked in low for close quarters attacks. They weren't two parts of a whole, not quite, but they came close. If they hadn't spent so much time hating each other, Rin thought they might have trained together. Tell me that's not romance. Oh my god. And romance is not a part of this story. Like, the romance plot is truly so non-existent. Like, this is less than a tensely confused glance across the room. Like, there is no romance here. And yet, when he fights in a war with you, like you're two halves of a whole. They managed to crush the Federation army after that until it's just down to the general, who jumps in, and Nudja and Rin are like, oh my god, we're literally children, we're screwed. But boom, Jiyoung jumps in, goes full gatekeeper on this dude, calling forth whatever god he convenes with. And so all of a sudden these like mythical creatures are coming out of nowhere. It's like this book went from 0 fantasy elements to full force, but it's still not enough. Rin is forced to swallow the poppy seeds and convene with the phoenix. Oh my god. And then she goes full fire magic. She's just fire, fire, fire. And she has no control over it, just like Jiyoung warned her about. So that's super sick. She ends up passing out. She's really badly injured. Not just really badly injured. Don't know where Jiyoung is. It's a nightmare. And when she comes to, the Empress is leaning over her. And she's like, Rin, I know what you are. And that's where we are. And we're not even halfway done with this freaking book. This book is 10 books in one. Oh my god, I gotta finish this book. I love Alton.
Unfortunately, that would work on me.
An apology? Like a real apology?
Okay, bringing a bit of a weird vibe into the psych crew. This is unbelievably fucked up. I know he's gonna be fine because it's already been hinted at to us that Nudja has the ability to convene with the gods, that he's also a shaman, okay? But this is fucked up. Alton, I trusted you. Alton, I trusted you.
I'm sorry, but if Kitai is dead, you won't be hearing from me again.
I'm fine.
It's the next day. I'm not done yet, but I have so much to tell you once again. Where we left off was the beginning of the war. When Rin channels the power of the Phoenix, she's really inexperienced. She has no idea what she's doing. It's chaos, but they win the battle. When she wakes up, we find out that she's being held captive because they don't know what to do with her. This emergence of Phoenix powers kind of makes it seem like she's an orphan from Spear Island, which is crazy because Alton is supposed to be the last person from Spear. Because this battle in Seingar didn't go so well, even though they won, it's like this war is picking up fast. So they're sending out all of the students to different divisions of the nation, even if they're still at the beginning of their training journey. So like Rin should have 2 more years at the school left, but no, she's being sent out to somewhere a little bit special. All of the schoolmasters decide that Rin is going to join Psych.
I've heard it both ways.
Psych is where the freaks are sent, where the people that are talented enough to be useful but not talented enough to go to an actual division and are maybe a little bit difficult to control are sent. And the Psych are the assassins for the Empress herself, who is the Vipress and also a member of the Trifecta. And who happens to be the leader of the Psych? One Alton Chengsen, the best student that Seingard has ever seen, and the guy that I thought Rin was gonna have a crush on in this book. I love him, I think. If he's dead or evil, don't tell me, because I love Alton. Rin goes to join the Psych under Alton, and they head out to this pivotal town in the war that they're gonna need to protect. And this is kind of where it seems like we're gonna be for a minute, because we're introduced to a whole new cast of characters, and it immediately, from their introduction, feels like this is going to be the found family. There's one more character that I haven't met yet, but I feel like he's gonna be really important and have a dramatic entrance. His name is Chagon, and we just know that he like wanders around and kind of does his own thing. And to me, that just speaks to his power. I feel like he's gonna be mad powerful and a little bit out of his mind because the Psych, this group, are literally called the Bizarre Children. They are outcasts. Rin is an outcast once again. She's not really happy to be here. She has no idea what she's doing because all of these people are like a little bit unhinged. And Rin has been at this academy where structure, discipline, rule following, that's been the outline of her life for the last like 3 years. It's gonna be a whirlwind for her. And Alton as a Spearly, now that it seems like Rin is also a Spearly, feels like he's found a family member and he just so clearly cares about her so much because of this shared heritage that they have. And it's really exciting because this is just the beginning of the war. And because so much has already happened, literally all I can think is like, what could possibly happen? Hey, so remember when I said that if Alton is gone or evil, just don't even tell me, just don't even let me live in my peace? I think I was maybe onto something there. I think I had a little bit of an inkling. Okay, I finished the book. I am devastated. Let's get caught up. We stay with Rin in the coastal town of Caladane for a little while because it is like such a pivotal town for the war, so they think. And I feel like this is really when things start to go downhill majorly. Because in the big picture, they're getting absolutely crushed by the Federation right now. And then on like a smaller scale, Rin's having a little bit of performance anxiety when it comes to calling upon her fire godly powers. Because she can't really reconcile the peace, love, and happiness that Master Jiang was trying to teach her with the all-destructive, killing force, let's get revenge type of philosophy that Alton is more about. So it's not going great, and they call in some reinforcements. And who comes along with the 7th Division to help? Our guy, Naja. There is some real tension between Naja and Rin right now because the last time they saw each other, Naja almost died and Rin had fire powers. And now that they're in an actual war, the little feud that they had when they were back at the academy seems like nothing, and so they kind of just move on from it and let it be the elephant in the room. But it's still, the elephant's still in the room. They do end up defeating this like legendary monster together that potentially Master Jiang unleashed when he used his gatekeeper powers back at the Battle of Signgard, so it's like not a great sign, but they work together, so it doesn't matter. Commander Alton also has this kind of weird relationship with Rin that's like romantic adjacent. There isn't really anything romantic about their relationship, but they have this deep connection now that they know that Rin is Spearly too, and like it's just the two of them left from that island, and Rin had like a huge crush on him back when she was a kid at school. So there's just tension there. There's tension everywhere. And to top it all off, Chagon, the mysterious Psych member that hasn't been around, shows up, and he is Alton's right-hand man and lieutenant, and also like wildly obsessed with Alton. I believe they've explored each other's bodies, but that's just my take. I'm just reading between the lines, you know? But he shows up and he has a very odd vibe. He has this like confidence and arrogance and smugness to him, but at the same time is like this really ethereal, frail kind of guy who's more a part of the spirit world than he is the real world. His ability is not to pull down power from one of the gods, but he goes to the gods. He traverses the spiritual realm, and he does not get along with Rin. Lots of tension there as well. And then things get a little bit worse because they have this battle with the Federation, and Naja gets pulled into toxic gas by the Federation and taken away. He's back, he's gone. He's back, he's gone. Ugh. They want us to think he's dead. I don't think he is. That's my opinion. I don't think he is. And Rin blames Alton for him being dead because he kind of had an opportunity to grab Naja and save him and didn't take it. So Rin is like, I'm fed up. No more performance anxiety for me. I need this power. So she pulls aside Chagon, even though they don't really get along, and she asks him to unlock her spiritual powers. Because something that I didn't really mention because I didn't fully understand it before is that one of the things blocking Rin from accessing her powers is that every time she goes into the spirit world with the intention of convening with the Phoenix God, she gets interrupted by this woman, but she wants to get rid of her so that she can just get to the god. And Chagon is like, oh, this is very interesting. But he dispels the woman and then whisks Rin away to go to this other spiritual place where she can throw like stones to see the future, and he's gonna read her stones for her. One of the things that Chagan saw in the stones is that they need to actually go to this other town, Nice, because this entire time, Caladane, the town that they've been protecting that's like pivotal for the war, was just a distraction. No, they need to go to another town. Classic war move, you know what I mean? So they head over immediately and find a massacre. Now that we get to Nice, where this place has already been massacred by the Federation, we are just given in detail disturbing, gruesome acts of violence and war atrocities. It's disturbing. It's frankly disturbing. And knowing also that it was most likely based on things that actually happened in Chinese history makes it really difficult to read, and also does a really good job of saying like, hey, look, this war is not just a plot point to get your characters to have their successful moment. This is real, and we should not be blind to the level of human cruelty that happens in war. So Alton decides that the only way forward is to go into this mountain where all of the god vessels that lose control are sent to, and to let them out so that they can have a god vessel army to destroy their enemy with. So they go to this magic mountain called Chulu Korik, unsure of my pronunciation, where hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of shamans that have been fully possessed by the gods that they call down are kept. And the first one that they run into is none other than Master Jiang. He's back! He's back! And they break him out and they're like, hey, you're the gatekeeper. And he's like, yes. And Alton is like, okay, so I actually am gonna need you to help me break all of these hundreds of god vessel shamans out of their prison so that I can make an army out of them and we can destroy the Federation of Mugen. And Jiang is like, Ren, babe, have you learned nothing from me? We are not meant to have gods in our heads. This would not win us a little war. This would destroy the entire planet. But he cannot change their minds. Rin is locked in with Alton right now, and Alton is willing to do anything to get his revenge on the Federation. So Jiyoung's like, okay, I see that I'm not making a difference here, so I'm gonna go now. And he just steps back up into his little prison and turns back into stone. Oh, he's the best. Instead of giving up, they move on to the next shaman, and when they wake him up, it's a grim sight. And immediately, 1 minute after talking to Jiyoung, Rin is like, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe this is not a good idea. And before Alton can even try to wake up any other shamans, the one that they've awoken sprints to go out of the mountain, and they have to chase after him, but they can't, because who's waiting at the door for them? Oh, it's Federation soldiers. Alton and Rin are captured, and we're now going into the final sprint of the book. They're brought to this research facility on Longbow Island, which is where the country of Mugen is, and the two of them get tortured by this crazy scientist dude that ends up revealing to us that this entire time, the Empress slash the Viperess from the Trifecta slash the lady that Rin and the Psyche have dedicated their lives to serve is the one who has been betraying them this entire time. She is the reason that the Federation knew to find them at this mountain, and we don't know why, but we hate her now. How do Rin and Alton get out of this research facility, you ask? Oh yeah, Alton incinerates the facility and himself. Alton is dead, like dead. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. I kind of knew that something like this was gonna happen, because anytime you have a character that's that self-destructive, it's going to catch up to them eventually. So it's still awful though. His sacrifice allows Rin to escape from the facility, dive into the ocean, and swim her way over to Spear Island. She makes it to the island, she finds the underground Phoenix God temple, and she convenes with him to make a deal. For her worship and blood sacrifices, Rin will become the Phoenix God's vessel and become a weapon of mass destruction. And she does. The power from the Phoenix God kind of takes over her and sends her into this like fever dream state, but it's really emphasized this whole time that she is autonomous. She is making the decisions here, and she uses this new power all the way from Spear Island's Phoenix Temple to decimate all of Mugen. All of it. The entire Longbow Island where they live. She destroys it, civilians included. Rin does to them exactly what they did to Spear. When you're reading a fantasy book, you always kind of want your main character hero to learn from the mistakes of like her allies and her enemies to come up with a new solution, a new way forward to make it so that this is a better world that we're living in. And that does not happen here because Rin just wants revenge. After incinerating an entire island of civilians, she passes out and then wakes up on a boat, a safe ship, because she has been found by her found family freaks, the Psych. Katai, her friend from school, is actually on the ship because they ran into him when they went to Gaul and Nice where there was like a massacre. And when he talks to Rin about what she's done, he's like, oh, so you're a monster. Chagon, on the other hand, who had this shared obsession of Alton with Rin, is like, oh, so you're telling me that the Empress is actually the real villain here and that there's a shaman from the mountain prison on the loose, and so war isn't over, it's really just begun? Okay, I'm your guy. Let's go cause more destruction. And then we get an absolutely terrifying inner monologue from Rin. The gods could affect the universe only through humans like her. Her destiny had not been written in the stars or in the registers of the pantheon. She had made her choices fully and autonomously. And though she called upon the gods to aid her in battle, they were her tools from beginning to end. She was no victim of destiny. She was the last Spearly, commander of the Psych, and a shaman who called the gods to do her bidding. And she would call the gods to do such terrible things. And that's where the Poppy War ends. That's the end. I expected to feel a little bit more hyped when I finished this book. I was expecting more of like a grand conclusion, even though I do know that this is the first in a series of 3 books. It's very clear that Rin is not making the most moral choices. Well, I know that it's also supposed to be conflicting, but I think either way, we're not supposed to think that Rin is some sort of like ultimate good. And given the last little spiel that we get from her, we just know that she's about to walk into a shit show. And I absolutely loved it. The characters are phenomenal. The writing is amazing. The obvious influence on this book from actual history is so well done. It has incredible commentary on race and class and government control. It is so good. And I had no idea what kind of journey we were getting into here. I gotta go like take a walk and stare at some trees or something. Oh my god. I'm so glad we did this, and I love you, and I will see you soon. Bye.